And we're going to quickly finish the 8th chapter of Greenwitch. Captain Toms, after telling the Drew children the story of his ancestor, or possibly himself, and the ship The Lottery, took the kids down to see the painting that was being done by the Dark. And we will begin at the beginning of the paragraph where the last video cut off. Green and blue and yellow it glowed there in the darkness, in great writhing, seething patterns like a nest of snakes. Seeing it now for the first time, Jane felt an instant dreadful revulsion from the picture, its shape and color and mood, yet she could not take her eyes from it. The man was still painting, even now, with the wind grabbing at his clothes and tilting his easel toward him, so that he had to hold it still with one hand. He was yet daubing away frenziedly with a brush full of these strange, horrible colors, and to Jane's bemused eye it seemed that all the colors came from the brush itself without the least pause for taking up new paint. "It's horrible!" Barney said violently. He spoke with great force, unthinking, but the wind whipped the words out of his mouth as soon as they were uttered. The painter, standing to windward, would not have heard him even if he had yelled at the top of his lungs. "Now I see." Captain Toms suddenly thumped his stick on the ground, staring at the picture. "That's it. Now I understand. He has painted his spells, Manna and Wreck and Lear. The power is all in the picture. I had forgotten it could be done. Now I see. I see, but too late, too late." Jane said fearfully into the wind. "Too late." The wind rose, howling in their ears, lashing at their faces, flinging salt spray into their eyes. There was no rain, nor any lightning or thunder. They heard only the wind and the crashing of the sea. They staggered backward against the wall, pinned to it by the gale. Out on the quay, the painter hunched his broad shoulders forward, leaning into the wind to hold himself upright. He flung away his brush, paints, and papers rushed away from him and were gone on the wind. All that he held, was a strange, glimmering canvas. He raised it above his head and shouted some words in a tongue the children did not understand. And suddenly they heard a sound like nothing they had ever heard from the sea before, a great sucking, hissing noise echoing from side to side of the little harbor. The wind died away. There was all at once a strong, very strong smell of the sea, a smell not of decay but of foam and waves and fish and seaweed and tar and wet sand and shells. For a second the moon sailed out behind a broken cloud, and they saw a great sideways impossible wave roll back to each side of the harbor, and up out of the water came a towering dark shape twice as high as a man, looming over the painter, bringing with it even more overpoweringly the tremendous smell of the sea. The painter flung up his arms, holding the canvas, thrusting it at the great black shape, and cried out in a voice that cracked with strain. "Stay, stay, I charge you!" Captain Toms spoke softly, wonderingly, half to himself. "Watch for the Greenwitch," he said. And that's the end of chapter 8.